At this time, I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation. I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history.
Hello, dear fans of English. Hi, dear students, teachers, or just English lovers from wherever you are listening to us presently. I tell you welcome back to your weekly show. Welcome to your favorite program on OTS Matam 89.1. I know you are expecting me to name this program, and I will, because this is the voice of English lovers. My name is Mr. Lee, and today I will talk to you through the voice of English lovers, and I have a guest by my side, but this person is not a guest for me. He is a particular person for me. He's neither a colleague nor a friend for me, but he is a brother to whom I owe too much, to whom I owe a lot of things. I can say that because of him, I am a teacher of English today. I remember some years ago I was in a high school and still a member of an English club, but this man came to me. He came to me to help me gain confidence in myself. He came to me, helped me know that I'm able to speak English without any fear or shyness. This man came to me. He came to me to teach me grammar, vocabulary, and whatever related to English. So to this man, I owe a lot. I just want to name Mr. Saho from Nabaji, Seoul, and he'll be our guest today, where we'll talk about essential point, that is the importance of teaching an English phonetics to our students. And for the second part, where we'll talk about the influence that a first language can have over a foreign language. I just mean the influence that Polar or French can have on English. So this is our agenda today, and I am really honored to have Mr. Saho by my side and to discuss with him with these two important elements today. I will give him the floor. He will tell us a little bit about himself and where he comes from. Mr. Saho, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you ever so much. Really, I am, how should I say? You really had me speechless. But anyway, all I need to clarify is that, so we've been together for so many years now, but as brothers, as friends, and we've been helping each other. So I am beholden to you as much as you are beholden to me or any member of the family. Thank you for all. Thank you for this invitation. But before going any further, I'd like, of course, with your permission, to grasp this opportunity to thank the pioneers of this broadcast. I mean, Mr. Job and Mrs. Gay.
Yeah.
We are really beholden to those persons because they have been doing great things. I mean, for all the English teachers, I should say, for all the English lovers, by helping English teachers to better, to improve their level, to improve their job. So thank you all, dear Mr. Job and Mrs. Gay, for all that you have been doing. Thank you, Mr. C.
Yeah.
Mr. Lee, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Saho, for your presentation and your gratitude. It's really important. I just wanted to remind to the listeners that this is a show of English lovers. No matter who you are, a teacher, a student, or just an English lover, if you do love English, so this is your show, this is your program, this is the voice of English lovers. This is for you, all right? Before we go any further, Mr. Saho, I would like to know a little bit about what drags you into, loving English as far as becoming a teacher of English.
Okay. First of all, I missed to introduce myself a while ago. My name is Mr. Saho, and I have been teaching English for 4 years now in Nabaji Civil. So if I could really mention it, so it would no longer be love. Really, I can't explain it. It's how to say. I say that English is or has always been like a song that I can't get away out of my mind. I always loved it, and it's greater than I can explain. Really, words are not adequate to explain this love. I love it so much, and as they say, as they say, when there is, a will, there is always a way. That's why.
Sure. That's important.
Yeah.
I just want to remind our listeners that, as we usually do, this broadcast we're divided into two parts. The first one is dedicated to teachers. We talk about all things that concern teachers, and the second part will dedicate it to our dear students. Okay.
Great.
But for the first part of today, we'll talk about the importance of teaching phonetics in our classes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's an element that is really important, and we have to focus on that simply because pronunciation is part and parcel of learning a language.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I'm going to ask you one question, Mr. Saho.
Yes.
What is phonetics, Mr. Saho?
Okay. I think. Just to sum it up, we can say that phonetic is the scientific study of speech, sounds, and how they are pronounced. Now, it is just a sum up, but we can say that it's a study of language, as far as sounds are concerned. Dealing with transcription, with pronunciation, with stresses. Yes, in phonetics, we have all these parts, and that's really, as you said a while ago, very, very important, and it should not be really neglected.
Yeah. You mean pronunciation?
Yep.
And transcription as well.
Transcription as well,
Right.
of course.
So how important is pronunciation or transcription? How important it is to teach it to our students?
I think pronunciation and transcriptions are very important as far as speaking and listening are concerned. I'll just quote Mr. Barry Cisnan from his book, How to Teach English. Mr. Barry says there are 4 language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Each of them is as important as the others, and each and every one of them, and every of them needs to be taught. But now, because examination usually tests reading and writing only, the oral English and listening skills are often forgotten or are given very little teaching time. This concentration on written skills may well produce pupils who can pass the examination, but this does not help them to learn an English which will be useful to them outside schools, where the oral elements will be important. And from what I gathered from that quotation is that integration is the key word. So let's say, for example, suppose English is a bed of 4 legs. When I say 4 legs, I mean the 4 skills.
Okay.
Speaking, listening, writing, and reading.
Yeah.
So if this bed stands on its 2 legs, we can still call it a bed, can we?
Yeah,
of course we can, yes.
Yeah.
But trust me, this bed won't be as comfortable as it would be if it stood on its 4 legs. So we can't really neglect, the listening and the speaking.
Yeah.
And if we want to do listening or speaking properly, we should really focus on the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Because it's good to know spelling of a word, you see, to be able to spell a word, to know its meaning. But if you do not pronounce it well, you don't own it.
Yeah.
Because you might say it, somebody else won't understand you. And you might hear it from somebody else, a word that you know the spelling, you know the meaning, but you won't understand.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
That's
well,
what I say.
if I understand, you just mean that mispronouncing a word meaning may lead you to changing its meaning.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. No question about it.
Good. And there are some expressions sometimes you pronounce. For example, you can pronounce a word and you mispronounce it, if you mispronounce it, you may mean something else because both words can exist in English.
Yep.
You mispronounce one and you mean another one.
And sometimes it might be dangerous.
Yeah, it might be dangerous, of
You don't
course.
need to give example, but it might be dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
English speakers know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, it might be dangerous.
Yeah.
So what about knowing exactly how to transcript a word so that students will never be able or will never need as much as possible the help of teachers? Because, for example, if ever a student asks you, sir, how to pronounce this word or how to pronounce this word, I think it's better to teach them to go directly in the dictionary and know exactly the right transcription of a word so that they can pronounce it by themselves.
You're quite right, Mr. Lee. Okay, I totally agree with you on that point. Because, as you say, so you can't, the student, he does not have always his or her teacher by his or her side, you see?
Yeah.
So sometimes they need to be really independent.
Sure.
And the only way to get this independence is knowing how to transcribe. So we should teach them how to transcribe. And whenever we give some new words during the course, we give the transcription.
Yeah.
In order that once at home, if, for example, the student, forgets the pronunciation of the word, he does not need to come back and say, sir, what is the pronunciation of this word? Is it notice or notice?
Yeah.
He just can read, the transcription and to see that it's notice instead of notice, you see?
Yeah.
So it really gives them more independence.
Yeah. Just to remind our listeners that this is the Voice of English Lovers, and you can call us from wherever you hear us on the telephone line, which is 339666581, 339666581, so that you can give your contributions and critiques and why not your help, because this is our show and we'll have to share the ideas. Yeah, the more idea we have, I think the better or the more successful this broadcast will be, not only for teachers and students but also for English lovers. Yeah, but to come back to the point, Mr. Saho, sometimes we have problems in pronunciation.
Right.
And I think it's important to teach pronunciation and phonetics in the basic classes, and they grow up with that knowledge.
Yep.
In terms of being able now to speak properly English, you see. And there is a problem as well, because I think in pronunciation or in phonetics, there's something that people do not consider, and which is really important. I just mean the stress.
Yes.
Where to put a stress and where not to put that stress. Sometimes in the first syllable, sometimes in the second, sometimes at the end of the word. But there's a problem of stress.
Yes. It's really important, Mr. Lee, what you've just said. And stress, that's what makes, English sound English.
Yeah.
If you speak without stresses, your English does not sound English. You may use English words, but you sound as if you were, speaking Wolof or Pular.
Yeah.
So you always speak with your accent. The accent from your mother's tongue.
Yeah,
So
I don't mean to cut you short. I
Yes.
just want to contribute to what you said, that speaking English and sounding like Pular or like French.
that's not
Sometimes we speak English and we sound Pular, and I think it's not the right thing to do.
No, really. If we really want to speak it properly, we're not native speakers, of course.
Yeah.
And we can speak as native speakers do.
Yeah.
But we have to do our utmost, to make our English sound English. Whenever we speak another language, we make it sound that language.
Yeah.
And related to this, before we go any further, I'd like to mention something which is a common problem. For example, we see that it's not always easy to learn a foreign language.
Yeah.
Because there are always some new sounds, that the students, they don't know, because those sounds do not exist in their mother's tongue, and it do no longer exist. It do not exist in French neither.
Yeah.
So to learn these new sounds, we really need to help them. How? All we have to do is, for example, I'll just give an example. Teaching English words like thank or though. We really need to make a focus on this sound. For example, the sound th or the do not exists in French, Polar, or in English.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
it should be, it will be brand new to the student. So if you just pronounce it, say thank, and the student say thanks, or you say no, it's not like this. You can spend all your day make them repeat, but you won't have the proper pronunciation. So we should guide them step by step, telling them that, for example, maybe some teachers might say that, for example, terms like interdental or dental might be too complicated for students. Yeah, but it won't be necessary to explain that. But all we have to do is to put it into practice.
Practice.
Telling them that to pronounce those words properly, you can't pronounce it if you do not put your tongue before your teeth. And you do it step by step, and they follow.
Yeah.
Or the. If we do this, really, it will help us solve this problem. And that's the only way for students to own really those
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, I think it's important, but what exactly you mean when you say to practice it before your students? To practice the
Yes,
pronunciation.
I say, for example, if you say, for example, you don't just have to say the or the in thank, just like thank you, or the in though. You don't have to say that they are interdental.
Yeah.
They might not understand this,
Yeah.
but if you put your tongue between your teeth,
Okay.
you do it step by step. You tell them that's the only way to pronounce it is correctly, by putting your tongue between your teeth.
Your
You
teeth.
do it step by step, and you make them see they're not blind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they have a problem to, dissociate those sounds, but if you do it step by step and they
Yeah.
follow, so they're going to pronounce it properly.
Yeah, sure,
Yes.
sure. For example, you stand before your
Bef-
student,
yes.
and you practice it.
You
ask
practice it
them,
step by step.
Yeah, to
But
put
if you
the-
speak too fast, they can hear, but they don't make difference between
Yeah.
th and sir.
Yeah, yeah.
It sounds like the same. They say,
Sure,
oh,
sure, sure. And I
There is
think
no
it's,
difference.
It's really important. It's really important to focus on practicing the right pronunciation of a word. Not only students will be able to transcribe it phonetically, but as well they will be able to pronounce it. Just because they have seen you practicing again and
That's
again,
it.
so that they can just imitate you.
yes. I will always say that I see, I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I can. So all we have to do is to help them, see by transcribing words,
Yeah.
and do by practicing, the pronunciation of the word properly,
pronunciation.
so that they can own it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You mean just they have first to see you practicing.
Yes.
And then
they hear,
after.
they hear,
They hear.
you speak,
Yeah.
but they might forget.
Sure.
But to avoid this,
Mhm.
you let them see by transcribing.
Yeah.
After, of course, teaching them how to transcribe.
Yeah.
So you give them the transcription, and then you guide them to pronounce the word properly. That's it.
Yeah, that's important. That's really important. I think it's a hard work for teachers, for English teachers.
No, life
It's
is not easy.
It's not
Life
really
is not
easy.
easy. Life
Of
is not
course,
easy.
you're teaching young students. They may not really understand, but whatever the case, I
Yes.
think in the manner you can just fit your manner to their level,
That's it.
so that they can better understand you and imitate you
Yes.
as good as you do it.
As you say,
Yeah.
actions speak louder than words.
Than words.
Yeah, you can explain, but if you practice and you let them see,
Yeah.
so really,
Yeah.
they must.
Sure.
I think they will have something.
Sure, that's it, that's it. And there's a problem I've noticed in phonetics, because if you put the stress where you don't have to put it, you may, not sound English.
Yeah, that's,
You
yes,
may not sound English.
Quite right.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples, or just, illustrate this point of view?
Okay, so we can. Transcription is interesting, but also, in every word we have a stress, but we
Yeah.
should know where to put the stress to make it sound English. For example, if I say operation,
Mm-hmm.
if you write it, you say this is an English word, but operation is not English.
No.
So the correct pronunciation is operation.
Operation.
You put the stress and last but one
But one syllable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Operation.
Operation.
So we always need to know where to put the stress, and when we make student repeat, we need to focus on this. And
Yeah.
we also, as well as word stress, we have sentence stresses.
Yeah.
For example, we should also teach our students strong and weak forms.
Yeah.
Because students, for example, they might hear one Mr. Lee or one Mr. Joe, speaking English fluently. So it's a whole, they can understand.
Yeah.
But we need to,
to put it into details,
Yeah.
to show them step by step how to manage to have this whole thing. I mean, this finished, product. For example, if you have a sentence like in this following two sentences, if you say, for example, "What are you here for?"
Yes.
What are you here for? You can see that the word "for" has a capital meaning in this sentence.
Yeah.
That's why it is stressed and pronounced, clearly and loudly, "for." What are you here for? But in the answer, you might hear that the word "for" does not have the same importance it had in the question.
In the
For
question.
example, you can say, "I'm here for the job." In this
Yeah.
case, we just pronounce "for." Instead of
Okay.
"for," we just pronounce "for." What
Yeah.
are you here for? And "I'm here for the job." Yet we still have one word. It's the same word, "for."
Yeah.
But the pronunciation change depending on the context we use this word.
This word.
And
yeah.
this we really need to, and that's why sometimes students find it hard to understand, really.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
If you don't understand this, all these might sound Greek to you. You say,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what's this?
Yeah,
Is he
yeah.
speaking Chinese or what?" But if you explain you those details, you'll find it easier
Sure.
to understand there.
Yeah, sure. This is just something that can help us know how important phonetic can be.
That's it.
Because one word which is pronounced in two different ways, I think it's really important for students to know, because maybe they will think that this is a different word, whereas it is the same word but which is pronounced in a different way,
And if they
depending on the context.
if they understand this, you see, this will motivate them.
Yeah.
Because they'll see that, now the English sounds English. Yes. So if you help them really to understand this, it will be a motivation for them. And this is just an example, but for example, you can also say, "Where are you going to?" We hear "to." We always say it's "to." The word "to."
T-O, yeah.
To buy, to. We pronounce it "to."
Yeah.
But when it is in the middle of a sentence, we have the weak form. Like, for example, "I'm going to the shop." I'm going to the shop.
Yeah.
We don't pronounce it "to" properly, but we say "to." I'm going to the shop, or I'm going to school.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
these are really some things that
Yeah. So you just mean that if I rely on your explanation, that there is a difference in pronouncing one word,
Yes.
one word, meaning "for," and depending on the context
Yep.
and depending its
Yes.
sense in the
Yes.
sentence,
Yes.
there's a difference in pronouncing.
depending
pronouncing the
on
word.
its importance in the sentence,
Yeah.
its pronunciation might change.
Yeah, yeah. So, and knowing how to pronounce it properly may lead you to speak English and
Yes,
sound English.
Yes.
Yeah, but not speak English sound serere. I'm talking
no,
to.
it's not enough just to
Yeah.
say, "Okay, I'm using English
Yeah.
words," but really,
It's
let's
not
do our
English.
level best to make it sound
To
English.
make it sound English.
Yes.
I think,
of course, we all know.
I think there is somebody calling. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm fine. What's your name?
It's Mr. Jung from Nabat.
Nabaji. How are you, Mr. Jong?
I'm fine.
We're glad to hear you.
Okay, we are very honored to hear Mr. Safa speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We are too. We are too. And thank you for calling.
Okay, we deeply appreciate what he was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to make some suggestion about
Of course, you are.
pronunciation.
You're welcome.
Okay,
You're welcome.
we witness our students, they face problem of pronouncing the morpheme ed.
Yeah, Edie.
Okay, in the past or past particle.
Yeah.
For example, just take a verb
great.
to work. You can hear sometimes people say work it
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of walk.
Yeah.
Right.
It is a matter of pronunciation.
Yeah.
In a language is then to be communicate.
Sure.
Okay, as a proverb said, a language is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you use it or you lose
You
it.
lose it. Yeah.
That's it.
And pronunciation is the key of teaching a language and acquiring knowledge also.
Of course it is.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Jung. We appreciate your
Thank you for calling,
contribution.
Mr. Young. Really, that's great. That's nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he has raised an important point. I mean, the
Important point,
pronunciation of ed.
Yeah.
Of ed. We have problems in pronouncing some verbs in the simple past or in the past participle. Yeah.
Yes. Really, Mr. Young is totally right on that point. And I would say he has taken the words out of my mouth, because I was on the verge of, dealing with that point. Because it's a very, very important point. We really need to focus on that point to make it clear once. And I don't think it is that hard or that complicated. All we need to do is just to explain to students that, because we all take, the past, the simple past and the past participle of regular verbs. But we miss to focus on the pronunciation. And this is capital to make the students own what they learn. For example, all we have to tell them that is that, ed in the simple past or the past participle is pronounced ed only when it is preceded by the sound t or d. Example, we have complete, completed, added. These are the two situations. I'm not saying the two words, but only when it comes after the sound t or d. And these are some examples: complete, completed, added. But when it comes after voiceless sound like p, k, f, s, or sh, we pronounce it t. Example: to brush, we say brushed. To wash, we say washed. To cook, we say cooked. And now, for all the rest, when it comes for all the rest, voice, sound, and vowels, we pronounce it d. This is why we say answer. To answer, we say answered. To believe, we say believed. We pronounce it d. And there might be other examples, like, for example, to slow, we say slowed.
I think it's important, and I think it's a message to us, to our colleagues, when dealing with the simple past and the past participle. I think it is important to focus on the pronunciation of
really,
the
that's
ED.
really important.
I think there's somebody calling.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for calling.
Is somebody calling?
Yeah.
How are you, Mister?
It's Mr. Joe from Matam.
Mr. Joe from Matam, welcome.
This is the dean of the deans.
I'm fine, and you?
It's really a pleasure to hear you.
It's a pleasure's mine. It's a pleasure's ours.
I appreciate also your intervention, Mr. Sako.
Thank you.
Mr. Sako, how are you?
Thank you, Dean. I'm fine, and you?
Oh, really? It's
did miss you, brother.
To hear you really in this broadcast.
We thank you.
It means that really people are just following it, and it is a very important broadcast.
Great.
And I can say that also our objective is kind of rich. Because people are participating, we're getting a great number, and this is really a good thing. Congratulations anyway.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Now, as far as the topic is concerned, I think it is a very important topic. Teaching pronunciation in English, and maybe in teaching a second language in general, is something very, very important, because a language, if you don't pronounce it well, so you may have problem of understanding. Because some words, if you mispronounce, people won't know what you want to talk about. And this will bring mishaps in understanding. So it's something we should teach. It's part of it. We should not neglect this, because it's part of it. And then if our students do not pronounce well English, so they won't be good, I can say, in speaking, because you need to know how words are pronounced. Otherwise, your message won't get through. Now, as far as teaching it is concerned, I think that the first thing as a teacher is that teachers should have good pronunciation. This is something, this is a must. So teachers should have it, and if they don't have it, they should look for it. They should practice. They should try to know how words are pronounced before somehow teaching them. It is also very good to insist on pronunciation with beginners. I mean, CGM, Senkim, beginners in a way, because it's where you learn the basics of the language. So if they start really with pronunciation, insisting on pronunciation, I think this is very good for our students.
Of course.
And it's not a lost time.
No.
Maybe teachers sometimes they want to move, they want to go forward, but it's very good to insist on pronunciation. With CGM, Senkim. The other thing is that when you're teaching vocabulary, it can be with beginners or intermediate. Teachers always should start by pronouncing the word before they see the word on the board. The teacher should pronounce it and make students pronounce it. Because if you start by writing the word on the board, they will pronounce it the way they like. They will read it.
Okay.
And maybe the way they read it won't be the good one.
Right.
So as a teacher, you should start by pronouncing the word and make the student pronounce the word before they say it, before they see how the word is written. It's also very good to let students practice pronunciation. Because if they just learn it without practicing it, so they want to be able to somehow to have a good pronunciation.
Of course.
There are also some aspects on which teachers should insist when teaching pronunciation. There are many things I want to say, but I don't have the time. But it's very good to insist on plurals, the plural of words and of nouns. There are some changes that students should know how to pronounce these words. For example, when you have words which ends with Y in the singular, and which will be ending with IES, how to pronounce this, and things like that. It's good also to insist on past forms of ordinary verbs and irregular verbs also. It's also good to insist on, for example, on adverbs, how adverbs are formed, and then the different pronunciation that may change from the adjective to the adverb or things like that. Also, past participles is good for past participle, to teach past participle of irregular verbs. For example, you may hear someone saying written instead of written. Something like that. It's very good to insist on that. Apart from the pronunciation itself, it's also good to insist on stress. Stress is very important also, as you said. It's part of the game. For example, a word, for example, maybe if you mispronounce it, it can be heard as a verb, and maybe you may mean a noun. For example, a record. A record, for example, and then to record. If you mispronounce, so people want to know if you want to talk about a word or a verb or a noun. So things like this should be really somehow taught. Intonation also. Intonation, more a while ago talk about it. It's something very important. And also I just end with that. Strong and weak forms also.
Sure.
So all these somehow you see that it is a very important topic, and it means that teachers also should do research and know the different things that are related to pronunciation and do their best to teach them in class. So I will end with that, and I say hello to all the listeners, above all English teachers of the region of Matam.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Lee, and thank you very much, Mr. Saho.
Thank you very much, Mr. Job, and congratulations on you, because you are the pedagogical advisor in English, and we really thank you for your contribution and your suggestion. And it's really important. All what you have told here is really, really important, and really thank you, Mr. Job from Matam. He's the pedagogical advisor in English in Matam. Thank you very much. Mr. Saho, do we have something to sum up? Because it's
just to thank again, Mr. Jung, who called a while ago, and the Dean, Mr. Job, for his suggestion, because that's really important. And really, we can't thank them enough, because at the very beginning, Mr. Job and Mrs. Gay, they are pioneers of this program. So this is why really all we have to do is to thank them ever so much.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Thank you.
I think it's the end of the first part, but don't move. It's just the end of the first part, okay? The second part is ahead, and it's going to be in just less than a minute. We'll talk about something that interests students, and we will announce it right after, okay?
And just to say that we planned maybe to talk about, as Mr. Job said it a while ago, about the difference of the pronunciation of S in the plural. Mr. Job mentioned it a while ago. We plan to talk about it, but since we are we're out of time.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
problem.
yeah. Maybe
Yes.
next time we'll have more information and more, ideas to deal with. Okay, but before any further, don't move, please. We're coming back in less than a minute.
Yes, stay
because
tuned.
there's a second part which is dedicated to the students, our dear students. So stay tuned and don't move. All right. See you in a minute.
I can touch the sky. I know that I'm alive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan, our technician, for this nice song you've put on. I think students love it. Well, we are in the second part, and today, as I said, we'll talk about one essential point, which is the influence that a first language can have on a second, and that second is a foreign language, of course. Okay, I just mean the influence that French or Pulaar can have on English, because there's a problem. But this is a large point, and we'll be more specific to deal with the translation of to be, which means generally in French être. That in which case do we translate that auxiliary to be into French by saying avoir? Sometimes we translate to be in French by avoir, l'auxiliaire avoir. But anyway, everybody know that to be corresponds to être normally, and to have corresponds to avoir. But in some cases, in particular cases, there's a I don't say it is a mistranslation, but it's the right translation. But what is the problem? Because there's a problem. There's a shift. Why that shift? Why sometimes we translate it into French by saying avoir, and as well it is in the dictionary to be means être.
Yes. You see, in every language has its own structures. You see. So all we have to tell our students is that you can't think in a language and speak in another one. So if you want to speak English, try to think in English. But if you think in Pulaar, you'll have a great problem.
Yeah.
And we often see that. For example, I'll just give you an example. Even last week I was talking with my students in CGM. Though you teach them the word missing, when somebody is not here, you say missing, but they tell you is not here.
Yeah.
So if you really understand the student, if you understand a little bit in Pulaar, you'll know that is not here is nothing but the translation of alado.
Alado.
That's
right.
it.
Right.
I'm not a
Alado.
Pulaar, but I understand this.
But you do
And
it well. You pronounce
you
it
need
well.
to understand them. You
Yeah.
need to understand them.
Okay.
So this will help you to help them from avoiding some mistakes. And to come back to what you said a while ago, the translation of to be. So all we just need to understand that, for example, in English, we often use to be plus an adjective, whereas in French, to translate those expressions in French, we have the auxiliary avoir plus un nom.
Yeah.
So you can have be plus a noun.
No.
You say, I am hungry.
Yes.
You see, I am hungry. That's correct. But now when you translate it into French, where they use, the auxiliary avoir, so that's why they add a noun.
Yeah.
They say, j'ai faim. You see, you say, I am thirsty, and they say, j'ai soif.
J'ai soif.
They always use, the auxiliary
Yeah.
avoir plus un nom,
Un nom.
whereas, English use
To be
plus
an adjective. An adjective. Yeah. I just want to add something. You said that before you write in English, you have first to think English.
in English. That's it.
But if you think Pulaar or you think French and you want to write it in English, I think
This
you
is
will
the problem.
you will have problems. You will
Yes.
have problems.
Different languages, different structures.
Different structures. So
That's
two
it.
different languages and two different structures.
Structures,
So
of
therefore,
course,
it's
of
better
course.
to think first English and then write English, but not first think French and write
French.
English. You may have some problems in the meaning of the sentence, right? But now, you said that there is a structure with to be, which is always which is to be plus an adjective, but if we translate it into French, it's going to be avoir plus un nom. For example, you said to be hungry. To be hungry.
That's it.
And if you translate into French, you will say avoir faim. Avoir faim. So hungry is an adjective in English. But when you say avoir faim, faim est un nom. Okay? À la place d'un adjectif, on a là-bas un nom. Bien que ça traduit la même chose. Faim, hungry, that's the same word. But in English, hungry represents an adjective, and in French, faim represents a noun. A noun. Now, I think before we go directly in the point, it is important to conjugate the auxiliary to be and to have for our students, and I think they are listening and they are taking notes.
Great.
Yeah, we just conjugate it into the simple past, well, the simple present and the simple past. Okay, for the simple present of the verb to be, we will say I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are. I repeat, I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are. And for the past simple of the verb to be, I will say I was. But I think, Mrs. Saho, there is something to say. But before that, I will conjugate the whole.
Carry on first.
I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, we were, you were, they were. I repeat, I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, we were, you were, they were. But there is a problem of pronunciation with, as we talked about pronunciation, I think it is important to say that the verb to be in the simple past for the first person and the third persons, it is not I was, but I was. Yeah? Okay, I'll let you
yes.
give the right pronunciation.
Yes, you gave it. All I'm going to add is that we need to focus on that, because what Mr. Job said a while ago is very interesting. Because if you write it for some time, I mean, most of the time students, they pronounce it their way. So to avoid this, Mr. Job said it. So I think we should pronounce it properly and let them repeat to make sure that they grasp the correct pronunciation before we're dealing with the spelling. But if you just write it on the board, most of the time students pronounce it the way they like. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Now we go directly in this point. I mean, in which case do we translate to be into French by saying avoir? Of course, the auxiliary to be corresponds to être, and the auxiliary to have corresponds to avoir. But in some cases, to be corresponds to avoir, in some cases. And there are some expressions that can illustrate this case. And as you said a while ago, to be plus an adjective, if you translate it into French, you'll have avoir plus a noun. And the example you give is to be hungry. To be hungry, French will say avoir faim. And it is the same as another expression when you say in English, to be thirsty. To be thirsty means in French avoir soif. Means in French avoir soif. Okay, meaning that we have other expressions that can illustrate this specific case. For example, we have to be afraid of. To be afraid of, when you translate into French, you will say avoir peur, avoir peur. And I'll give an example with this expression. The little boys are afraid of the cat. The little boys are afraid of the cat. If you translate into French, you will say, I hope that students are translating before me. I hope that. So, the little boys are afraid of the cat. You will say in French, les petits garçons ont peur du chat. Les petits garçons ont peur du chat. And you see that there is a shift here. To be afraid of is translated into French by avoir peur de. Avoir peur de. So this is the second example that can illustrate the specific case in which to be is translated into French by avoir. And there's other expressions like to be sleepy. Before that, I think it's important to give just as a vocabulary expression to our students. At the same time, I think they are noting and they are taking down the examples because they have to improve their vocabulary. For example, there's an expression that says to be right or to be wrong. Let's start with to be right. To be right. To be plus right, we spell right, R-I-G-H-T. To be right. And to be right, when you translate into French, you will say avoir raison. Avoir raison. And I can give an example. The teacher is right. The teacher is right. Le professeur a raison. Le professeur a raison. And there is another example. I mean, the contrary, the contrary of the opposite word of right, which is to be wrong. To be wrong. I can spell W-R-O-N-G. W-R-O-N-G. To be wrong. And to be wrong means avoir tort. Avoir tort. And the example I can give is my sister is wrong. My sister is wrong. Ma sœur a tort. Ma sœur a tort. There is another expression that is to be sleepy. To be sleepy. And let's spell sleepy. S-L-E-E-P-Y. S-L-E-E-P-Y. To be sleepy, when you translate into French, you will say avoir sommeil. Avoir sommeil. I can give an example. My grandfather is sleepy. My grandfather is sleepy. Mon grand-père a sommeil. Mon grand-père a sommeil. Mr. Saho, is there other expressions that can illustrate this specific case?
Yes. To put it in a context, I think we should say, I am hot. Because today it's very hot. I am hot. Where we have in English, to be plus the adjective hot. When in French we translate it saying, j'ai chaud.
J'ai chaud.
Yes.
J'ai chaud.
To be hot. And then we can say to be cold.
Yeah.
To be cold, as you said, we still have to be plus an adjective in English, and we translate it into French saying, j'ai froid.
J'ai froid.
We use the noun, le froid. Yes, j'ai froid. So, as you said, I think if you really understand the way, because if somebody doesn't manage to understand you, we should, let them know. We should try to understand them. And if you understand where the problem is, if you understand the problem of students, if you understand the way they think, it will be easy for you to help them, avoid many mistakes.
Mistakes,
Yes.
yeah. It's important just to add other expressions for your vocabulary as well, okay? Students, I think you are listening, and you may call so that you can give me some other examples that can illustrate this case. I know you can do it, okay? We're waiting. Yeah, we're waiting for your calls, students. There is another expression like to be lucky.
Great.
To be lucky. But if you translate into French, you will say avoir de la chance. Avoir de la chance, to be lucky. And there, as an example, I'll say, the students are lucky. They have succeeded at the BFM. The students are lucky. They have succeeded at the BFM. I repeat, the students are lucky. They have succeeded at the BFM. It means les élèves ont de la chance. Les élèves ont de la chance. Ils ont réussi au BFM. Ils ont réussi au BFM. So just like translating to be lucky into French, you will say avoir de la chance. Another example, like to be 12 years old or to be 20 years old. My father is 54 years old. My mother is 32 years old. Or you say my grandfather is 72 years old. You will never say in French, je suis 12 ans. No, you will never say it, but you will say j'ai 12 ans. In English, you say I am 12 years old. In French, you say j'ai 12 ans. My grandfather is 72 years old. Mon grand-père a 72 ans. 72 years, 72 ans. Mon grand-père a 72 ans. And there is too many expressions that can illustrate this case, this specific case, in which you do not translate to be into French by saying être, but you translate it into French by saying avoir. And students have to know how or in which case do we have to do this translation. Instead of translating into French by saying être, you say avoir. Just because some expressions you have to be in English plus an adjective, and in French you have avoir plus a noun. Avoir plus a noun, like to be hungry. To be hungry, to be plus hungry, adjective in English. Avoir faim, avoir plus a noun in French. And to be thirsty, that's the same. To be thirsty, okay? There are too many expressions. Let us repeat the example we gave to you. The first example we gave was to be hungry. To be hungry, French will say avoir faim. Avoir faim. To be thirsty. To be thirsty. Avoir soif. Avoir soif. To be thirsty, avoir soif.
Sleepy.
To be sleepy, avoir sommeil. To be sleepy, avoir sommeil. To be afraid of. To be afraid of something. Avoir peur de quelque chose. Avoir peur de quelque chose. To be wrong. To be wrong. I spell wrong. W-R-O-N-G. To be wrong means in French avoir tort. Avoir tort. To be right. To be right. I'll spell right. R-I-G-H-T. To be right. Avoir raison. Avoir raison. There is another expression, to be lucky. To be lucky, avoir de la chance. Avoir de la chance. To be lucky. The students are lucky. They have succeeded at the BFM. Les élèves ont de la chance. Ils ont réussi au BFM. And to be 12 years old, 10 years old, 13 years old, etc., etc., you have avoir 12 ans, avoir 10 ans, avoir 13 ans, etc., etc. So these were the examples we wanted to give to you, our students. These are the examples in which you are obliged to translate to be into French by saying avoir instead of être. I think you have jotted down, and I think you can really teach us this specific point. If ever we deal with it in class, you'll be able to understand, to give examples, and to be able really to understand all this. Okay. I think this broadcast have achieved its end, and together with Mr. Saho, we have talked about the importance of teaching phonetics for the first part, dedicated to teachers, and for the second part, we have focused on the influence of a language, of a first language, on a second one, and specifically the dealing with the translation of to be into French by saying avoir. I think I'll give the floor to Mr. Saho for his last word. Yeah, Mr. Saho, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And once again, thanks to the pioneers, again, Mr. Job and Mrs. Gay, who really made this possible. And thanks to all our listeners, dear students and colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Saho. I was really glad to have you by my side and to talk about these important elements. I think it will never be the last time. You will come back here and give your contributions and suggestions and critiques, because as Mr. Job said, this is the program of English lovers, and it concerns all the English teachers in this area in Matam. Thank you very much, dear listeners, dear students, dear teachers, you who have called, you who have listened, you who have participated in this program. We really say thank you. Thank you very much, and see you next time, same hour, same day. Bye-bye.